Well, here, cheers me with your coffee. Yeah.
Cheers.
Oh.
Cheers, Robby.
We're rolling. You are listening to a chatter of fact. Again, these are not interviews. They are conversations. And she's back. If you did not listen to part 1 of The Strings of Life, go back and press pause right now and listen to that. Here's what I've told everybody about your first episode here, Zara. I said, within the first 6 minutes of that episode, if you're not laughing or at least smiling, then you have a problem and you're a terrible person. Because the first like 6 or 8 minutes, I listen back to it and I laugh and I smile. There's nothing like you. There's no personality like you. I know you don't like being complimented.
But everybody is being made to smile by different things.
This is true. Yeah,
so we
you
can't,
must.
you know, somebody may like our conversation. Somebody may just be like, man, this is stupidest, stuff
Whatever
on planet
it is,
Earth.
the numbers are good. You know what's interesting? It looks like people are listening to it, but it also looks like people are sharing it, which is kind of nice.
That's so funny, the numbers. Which numbers, Robby?
Well, just, pick a random one, like 34. I like 250 a lot. 250 is good.
Those numbers, yeah.
But you're listening to Zara, and here's the cool thing. We were talking the last time, and it was such a fascinating story. You guys know how this works. I'm like talking to somebody, and then all of a sudden I get the story from beginning till not end, because then that means they would die at the end of the show, and I don't want that. But you get the story from beginning to where they are now. And your story was a little too good. It was too good. It was so involved at the beginning. I was so fascinated by that I wanted to keep focusing on that. And that's what we heard. You guys want Cliff Notes? Fine. She's from Bulgaria. She was trained since the age of 2. She was really, really, really talented, very good at the violin, and then came here to America with $200 in her pocket, could barely speak the language, and now she's a very busy and talented musician right here in Chicago and beyond. I've been around the world with her. I have to tell you guys, it plays like a movie. Listen to the last episode. It's like watching a real good movie. The way she came here and the things that she went through and the way that, I'm not going to give it away. I'm not going to spoil it. You know why? You guys don't deserve it. You have to press pause and go listen to it. Go listen to it. All right. Anyway, so here's where we are now. All right. You got to the country. You got the amazing opportunity at DePaul University, which was the way that whole thing happened was like a movie. Even when I've mentioned to people about it who haven't heard your episode, 3 different people have told me it's like a movie. Do you think it is a little bit like a movie, your story?
I think everyone's life is like a movie.
Yeah, but there are a lot of boring movies out there. Yours is a good movie.
Well, maybe. You know what? I have to tell you, speaking of boring movies, I really, really want to find the value. That should not be something that I say on a microphone. Have you seen Nebraska?
I don't think I've heard of Nebraska, unless you're asking me if I've seen the state.
No. It was a movie that I just went to the movies about 3 years ago and saw Nebraska.
It's a late review, but worth it.
It's a late review. But honestly, I would like for somebody to just explain to me the value of this movie and why it was made. And I don't mean to say that
that's such a polite slam.
That whoever did directed it and wrote the story, and I'm sure there was a profound, something profound going on, but I just for some reason couldn't really.
Was it boring?
Well,
you can say it.
What I'm saying is that I would really like to understand why it was made to begin with.
I like the kindness of your review of a boring movie, because a lot of people would just say, listen, this movie was so boring. But your thing is like, I want to know why.
I do.
It makes me very nervous to like cook for you and make a bad meal, because I picture like you're going to take like one bite of the fork and you're going to stop and you're going to say, Robby, I just want to sit down with you and I want you to explain why you cooked it this way.
Yeah, and I think it's really
Instead of saying it's terrible, you're going to like, why?
No, because
so much salt.
Terrible would be only through my lens of tasting, and then the person next to me would be like, no, this wasn't that bad, and then I would say, what did you like about it? and then perhaps I would just be like, oh, okay, I see why my taste you know.
And say,
you know
oh,
what I'm
now
saying?
I understand. Yet it still tastes terrible to me. Well, that's interesting.
I guess I don't like turmeric or whatever. Maybe the very reason why you like, you know.
Oh,
so
self-discovery.
because if somebody comes and tells me that they like Nebraska because it was their only time to take a nap from their really, really busy life, now that's one thing I could probably question, you know, as an explanation. But anything else, I would take. You know,
Again,
I loved Nebraska because I went and the chairs were so comfy.
Again, that's the nicest version of this is a boring movie I've ever heard. You should be, if you were a movie reviewer, you would be very popular because even the movies that you don't like, that's a very polite way of saying, oh, this is a waste of my time.
Well.
Yeah, I like that. But all right, I'm gonna get back to you for a second because I don't know the rest, so I want to know the rest now. I know that you got here. I know what you went through. Like I said, people, it's incredibly interesting and entertaining. Go listen to it.
I don't remember where we cut.
That's okay. That's my job. That's
Please.
all right. Yeah.
Yes.
So you got the scholarship from
Yes.
DePaul.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the first thing you had to do was you had to take some English courses.
That's right.
Twice.
English, right, the TOEFL exam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, twice.
And then you went through the scholarship. So I guess let's talk through that very quickly because all of a sudden, coming here, working at a restaurant, you know, the only touch you had with your instrument was on your own rehearsal time in a basement.
That's right.
You know, not
That's
even
right.
like the best area to rehearse. Suddenly, you are thrust into a major university in the
Right.
city, a full ride scholarship,
Right.
which is an interesting story. Again, people, go listen to it. And so all of a sudden, you are surrounded by academia and an American university. Tell me about that, because seriously, you still didn't have a command of the language, did you? Like,
But actually, in
timeline wise, I'm sorry. Did you take the class and then you started DePaul? Is that how it worked, or was it during?
okay, so both.
Okay.
Both. I started at DePaul with just chamber music, orchestra, private lessons. You know, violin lessons.
Okay.
Was there anything else? Those are the three major things that I did while taking the English as a second language school.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I passed the TOEFL, then I started taking the other academia. But before that, for about 2.5 months, I was only doing music. So
Only music before learning English further.
Correct.
What? How was that hard?
Correct.
Because wait, remind
No.
me when you met the musician.
Oh my God.
Remind me of the phrase that you could come up.
Very thank you.
Very thank you.
Very thank you. That's my favorite. And
Yeah.
forever and ever. No, but so Robby, let's do it this way because pretty much everything in regards to that is, like you said in the first episode. I don't want to repeat myself, but basically the way life moves after that was so. As I was going to the there were so many things because like there was a moment where I was at the depot where I didn't have a place to live. So like let's say I would sleep on the bench in front of the depot, but then they open at 6. So then I would like go into the gym part of the depot. Then I'll take a shower,
Oh my goodness.
brush my teeth, and then this and that. Nobody knew. That was for like a week and a half. No one knew that
Was
I
this
have it.
at
But it wasn't bad.
This was at the beginning of the schooling.
Of the schooling, yeah, in the very beginning of the schooling. So I mean, it's just part of like
That is
different
amazing.
experiences, you know, if you have to talk. But actually, it wasn't bad. It's not what people think it is. It's
Sure,
not.
sure.
It's really like if you get a coat and a jacket because the practice rooms are open until about, I would say 12 or 1 o'clock. I can't remember right now. I'm making
Sure.
up a number, but the practice rooms are open quite late at the Point University. So you stay there, you practice, you do your work, you go to whatever. So really, the time that you just gotta sleep outside is like 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's not so bad at all. And then you can certainly, like I said, take a shower at the gym, you know, in the morning, brush your teeth, you know, and just look like, you know, you're perfect.
Everything's
You can be
fine.
ready. Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask you this. When you walk outside and then you decide, like, well, how did it hit you? Like, oh man, I don't have a place to sleep. So are you kind of scoping, or did you, like that night, did you figure it out? Or earlier the day, are you like, okay, let's look around. Like, how does one find a bench to sleep on? That's a unique experience.
It's a good question. I can't remember my thought process at that time, but
Okay.
perhaps my logic, I would think now, I don't know, I can't recall, but no, I'm not like scoping the city for safe benches, but my logic might have been something like, okay, I walk out, they close, the security stay in, I look around, oh, here is a bench. and it is in a more or less enclosed space, you know, meaning it's in already like the school area, you know, the school park, the school area. So it's nothing like going completely out and being in a very, very random or dangerous, so to speak.
Oh, good.
Place. So no. That's why I'm saying it's not really the experience that we all think about. Oh, you slept on a bench. No, it's not like that.
Nice.
It's just sleeping in front of your school.
Yeah.
Which is like if you put a tent or something in front of your house. It's not gonna be dangerous in your backyard. Same thing. So
interesting though. Still.
Well, thank you, but okay. But anyway, one of the times practicing, it's so interesting, folks. Robbie, what do you need?
I'm trying to adjust my volume, and I'm trying to like wrap my arm around it and fix it. And I realized my arm's not that long. And the last time I made an adjustment on the last podcast, you looked at me, you're like, "What are you looking at, Robbie? Why aren't you listening to me, Robbie?" And I'm like, I want to be able to reach the volume, but I don't want her to yell at me.
I think we should explain to folks that today,
yes,
this whole like getting together is like so last moment, so improvised, and it is so. This is our, so to speak, our sleepy version. This is the before the coffee version of the podcast. And
this is
kind of funny.
This is the slightly more rundown version of the last podcast, because folks. Seriously, you know, doing the podcast stuff, we're both working musicians and we work on crazy timelines, and we've both been traveling and doing these gigs. And today was kind of and then we had some other things into play today that had us do it a little bit earlier, and we're chill today.
Very much so.
However, that does not take away the fascination of like right off the bat, I didn't expect a story about you sleeping on the bench in DePaul. Like, that's unique to me. That is unique, and that's a survivor. That's the move of a survivor, by the way. I know for you it's like... Is that the music to Survivor?
No, but we should find... What is the...
I'm a
Rocky?
survivor!
Survivor!
I'm going to sleep on the bench! Yeah, that's
like
very
that.
nice.
It's beautiful. The bench is perfect.
We got to compose something together, I guess. Maybe that's our next move.
Maybe.
Sleeping on a bench is a good song title. I'm going to remember that. So you're sleeping on the bench for a week. Is that before you...
It's not. That's not.
It's not accurate?
Don't worry about it. No. It's like a week and a half. But don't worry. That part
Hey, let me be fascinated where I'm fascinated.
No. Don't. It's seriously. That's not.
What
really.
I want to mention is...
That I no longer sleep on benches is what Robbie wants to say.
Don't believe it. She was outside on my porch today before the podcast, just laid out, just with a pillow.
It's like old habits die.
Just a pillow of leaves. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, it feels so good, Robbie.
I'm a mermaid on a pillow of leaves.
But that's
how I roll.
Here was my question. After that week, did you end up having like a dorm at DePaul or what?
No. Actually, associated with DePaul, all the funding from DePaul that was for me was full scholarship that I was guaranteed for 4 years. So it was full scholarship for the academia. Mm-hmm. Nothing to do with food or sleeping arrangements or anything like that.
Oh, it was just tuition.
It was just tuition. Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. Yeah. But anyway, so I'm gonna kind of like go more or less faster to the next, Okay, so I was practicing in the practice rooms, and it's like if you've ever been to DePaul, you know it's a very smaller space. So then you could kind of know, as far as where the practice rooms are, you could kind of hear neighboring rooms practicing, so to speak. Nice. It's not a complete isolation of the sound. Uh-huh. So I heard this amazing violin player just wailing, and I just didn't see the face didn't seem familiar. I didn't see her at Stephen Hirsch's class or in anybody else's classes, and so I went and I introduced myself. I'm like, hey, you sound really amazing, where do you go to school? And I think she's at New England Conservatory. I was like, what are you doing here? She's like, well, I used to be at DePaul, and so I know that I can come and practice at any time, and I'm currently studying with Shmuel Ashkenazi. And so I'm like, wait a minute, do you mean Shmuel Ashkenazi from the Vermeer Quartet? And and so the thing is, in music school in Bulgaria, we would listen to different recordings, and we would listen to the Vermeer Quartet quite frequently. And so all the members, and of course the first violinist, Shmuel Ashkenazi, was a name that you're familiar for a long, long time. It's like it's one of those things that is engraved in your heart as one of the great musicians that, one day I will hear, Shmuel Ashkenazi.
Wow.
Well, So she's practicing, she's sounding amazing. She's telling me that she's taking private lessons with Shmuel. She's telling me that she's doing her master's or whatever in New England, but she's back in Chicago for whatever reason, right? I can't recall. And so I was like, so is Professor Ashkenazi, I thought that he lives in Europe. You know, I always associated with Germany or whatnot. And she's like, well, actually, no. He lives in Chicago. He lives on Lakeshore Drive in Irving Park. But he does teaches in Germany, and he also teaches here in the United States. And I was like, okay, what building? Straight up, what building on Irving Park and Lakeshore? So she tells me the building. So basically, the story goes, I have to work out the courage, because this sounds like I'm a crazy person, actually, as a matter of fact, now that I think about this. That's okay. That's okay.
No, this is good. This is determination
I
and
do
fandom.
not think... Yeah, I don't think I'm mentally... I don't think so. But at the time, that was like, oh, it would be amazing. I really...
Sorry, wait a minute. Give me a second to breathe.
No, because now, even when I'm saying
I'm
this,
so sorry.
it sounds...
Just for a second, it was funny to watch you look up in the sky and think, wait a minute, am I crazy? And you had to think about it for a second and then come back.
I might have been a little...
No.
I don't know. She just sounded so unbelievable. Like, she sounded so good that basically it made me be like, oh, maybe I can sound that good if Shmuel can hear me. Or so, I don't know,
awesome.
right?
Yeah,
like something like that. So, so here we are. I would say probably a week later. Probably, I went to the building of Professor Ashkenazi, and I saw on the mailboxes his doorbell. And so I ring on the doorbell, and he lives on the... Wow, I probably shouldn't say where Professor Ashkenazi
Don't say exactly. Yeah, you don't have to give us the floor, but you went to his door.
Yeah, I went. Well,
or whatever.
On the entrance, on the bottom of this tall building. Right.
By the way, she wasn't even invited on the first podcast, folks. She figured out where I lived.
Yeah.
She just rang my buzzer last time.
Yep.
It's just how she rolls.
It's amazing.
That's how she makes friends. It's wonderful. He seems nice. Where does he live? So. Okay, so you get there, and I need to know what happens.
You're welcome, Robbie. You're welcome.
Does he open the door? Does he?
No. Yeah, I'll tell you. So I go and I ring the what is it called? Speakerphone? What is this called?
Sure, intercom.
Yeah. Not sure, intercom. What is it? Is it speakerphone, intercom? Okay, intercom. And then it's a voice, hello. And it's like, hello, Professor Ashkenazi? He's like, yes, who's this? I was like, you don't know me. I play the violin. Can I come and play for you? And then there's silence. And he's like, do you know what floor I live on? And my response, again, it's another one for the books that is dear to my heart, because I say, no, I'm not a serial killer. Because, to qualify to be a serial killer, you have to know the exact floor, not just where the person lives. Like, if you know where the person lives, then you're a nice person. But if you know the exact floor, then you're a serial killer.
I like the way you categorize
It's
that.
just amazing.
You
my
said
logic.
This.
Now,
how did he respond to I am not a serial killer?
He said, okay, come to such and such floor. And he buzzed me in. And then he opened the door, and I introduced myself, and here we are. And I played for him in his living. I met his wife, who is also an extraordinary violinist. She's Romanian. She's unbelievable. She's in a CSO. And I played for him in the living room, and then he asked where I'm studying, who I'm studying with, and then Professor Ashkenazi basically said, do you want to study in Germany with me or in the DeKalb with me? And so then he had to make phone calls again. I know this sounds like if somebody has heard part one, you're like, oh, really? That's how it works? Yes, that's how it works.
That's how it works.
Apparently, that's how it works.
Ladies and gentlemen, listen to part one, because she played for a professor of DePaul University, and then it opened up all these doors. So now you go to another guy, a famous guy's home.
But he's home.
Played for him.
Yep.
And so just high five me, because working so hard since the age of 2, obviously you're so good. For you to play for people and then to have that response, for them to forget, like, the stranger is in my home, but to just think of your talent, and that's amazing.
I think they were looking at the potential. See, this is another thing I want to clarify here. It's like,
it's a movie. It sounds like a movie. Better than Nebraska.
Even when I ended up studying with Professor Ashkenazi for 4 years at at Northern Illinois NIU at DeKalb. It's really interesting because even though he betted on my potential and what it could be, at the end, I couldn't quite reward him and give him what he betted on. You know what I'm saying? Because okay.
What would that be? What do you mean? What he betted on?
Okay, what he betted on is that I would get much better, much faster.
Oh, okay.
You know,
sure.
Which for some reason, whether it's I'm catching up, like let's say my dreams are big, but my ability to practice all day long and understand him are not as big. I'm not saying that I didn't learn everything I know from Shmuel. I'm not saying that he's not the most extraordinary. What I'm saying is that there was a big gap even throughout the 4 years where he was greater, bigger musician than I could have that I understood.
Okay.
So basically my understanding of his lessons was not as advanced, and so the information I could soak in and the progress I made was not as advanced as somebody that would already have been much greater of a player.
I see.
To meet him right there in the middle of his, because it's, how do I even explain that to you, Robby?
No, that makes a lot of sense.
For example, even when you talk about right now where I'm at, I would if I play for Shmuel right now, I will understand every single last thing that he would ask of me and every single last instruction for the violin, you know. But back then, maybe my brain and my sensitivity wasn't as developed, right? So we'll talk about expressive intonation. So it's not intonation, not as what we know. This is in tune, this is out of tune. Expressive intonation will be adjusting to what's before, what's after. And if you're playing in a string quartet, then if your A, that's your A, right? No. Well, the thing is, when you play in a string quartet setup, your actual A might be, it depends on the people around you. So there's no such a thing as definitive, and you know what I'm saying? It's not a set thing. You don't press the A on the piano and that's
There's
it,
placement
and everything else.
Right.
But this is just a simple example to tell you that it's kind of like music, and this depth of being musician on such level, it's almost hard to teach. It's almost impossible to teach, because it's like unless the person you're teaching it to, it's right there with you,
right?
You know, and can understand what you're saying. So basically, unfortunately, staying here with you, telling you that I study with my dream teacher and with one of the best musicians I've ever come upon, it wasn't as useful to me as I wish it was. Sure. Due to the fact that, again, I could of course talk about excuses and tell you that I had an overnight job at Luculus. It was a fast food place at DeKalb. Now the difference in DeKalb was that I was given room and board.
When you were training
with Shmuel Ashkenazi.
Oh, nice.
At DePaul University. So
wait, was there a DePaul?
I'm sorry, at NIU. I'm sorry.
So then
Northern Illinois University.
So how long were you at DePaul?
Like 3 months, and then basically I transferred. Well,
of course you had. I mean, why wouldn't you though?
Professor Ashkenazi.
But I think the thing about the understanding and the way we process and the way we learn, it makes total sense. You know, we can't control when things happen for us. You know,
exactly right.
You know, and sometimes we're given almost too much when we're not totally prepared for it, you know. And the best thing we can do is just take whatever it is, process it as best we can at the time, and still utilize those nuggets of wisdom and experience. And then later on, we're still better for it. And then if we're really lucky and smart, we can sometimes still look back and say, wait a minute, that thing, I get it now, you know.
This is exactly what it is. This is exactly, But, so for selfish reasons, I'm incredibly grateful that, I mean, first of all, I'll go back to the story of NIU, but on one side, I'm again, grateful is not a big enough word for this experience. It's an unbelievable thing that happened to me to have studied with Shmuel Ashkenazi for 4 years. It's unbelievable. On another hand, I feel as though I took somebody else's spot, you know? I feel that I took somebody else's spot that could definitely have done much greater things.
No,
much
I would never look at it that
no,
way.
but it's the truth.
But I think maybe the universe decided, you know what, this is what she needs right here, and whether or not she's totally prepared for it, this is something that Zara could still use right now. And again, timing, you know, there's something the way the universe played out. It just you know, because you're still better for it than you would have been without it.
I am much better for it. But again, as I said, there were a lot of things that I could have done better. I could have done better playing. I could have. I think this is not.
You earned that, though. You earned that.
You know, to study with Professor Ashkenazi, it is not one of those things you could do when you go to a full night job overnight. Then you go to full school. You have to keep your scores up in order for your scholarship to be active. You have to be getting A's and maybe like 2 B's or something, otherwise your scholarship will not be there.
And what school was that you ended up at?
Northern Illinois University.
So then how long were you there?
IU. Well, that's all the way until 4 years. 4 years. Yeah, the whole education that I had for undergrad is there.
Were you studying with him all 4 years?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. And that's what I mean is that now okay, so let's back up a little bit. So I played for Professor Ashkenazi, then he offered me a scholarship, he offered me to start studying with him. Now whatever timing that is, so I got in the States February. I played for Stefan Hirsch March.
That's the DePaul professor.
Yes. Then I studied with Stefan. So basically I must have started NIU in September. September, right? So for the new course. Now at NIU, one of the most important and most influential people that I've ever met is Professor Ron Carter. Ron Carter is probably the greatest educator that I have ever crossed paths. I mean, the most extraordinary. Professor Ron Carter is a jazz educator, and he's also all about the tradition of jazz, the tradition, not just play your licks and blah blah blah, but the tradition of it, where it really comes from. He's a saxophone player, he's a big band leader, he's he changes lives. That's one person that if you cross paths with them, you know that you're gonna definitely play jazz. You're gonna understand how it all works. You're gonna understand tradition. You're not just gonna be aiming for fusion and advanced stuff, but you're gonna know the tradition of where it comes from, because Professor Carter is just unbelievable. So anyway, I was lucky enough to there really start paying attention to jazz and really start taking some classes with him. And I will never forget, we had to transcribe solo that we pick, and it was all up 100% guys in the class but me, right? And so we were all one of the things.
Was it a big class?
Maybe 20 people.
Okay.
Maybe 20 people. And then we had to go and sing in front of each other the solo that we've transcribed.
Oh.
Right? Yeah. With doodla, right? The things that we learn.
Doodla?
The vocalization that he was teaching us, that it's best for the swing, for how it really swings. So you don't want to go I guess what I did, even though, because you practice doodla 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 do da do dee do da do dee do da do da doodla doodla, and you don't want to go and be like ta 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 ta, because then you would play it that way.
So you're not necessarily, it doesn't matter that people aren't necessarily on key. It's more of a timing thing with the doodla, because I mean, how can somebody a violinist.
No, it is in a key. For example, basically, let's get a solo. For example, let's say "No Greater Love," Ahmad Jamal. So the solo is do do ti di da do do da do do. Wait. Da do da do da do da de do de do de do de do de do de do da do de do da 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 la da da la da. But actually, right now that I'm doing it, I've even lost the exact way he want. In other words, he's teaching you how to swing and make it work. So then, when you feel it, you are not a weirdo. For example, you don't go in front of a class and you don't do ta 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 ta. Ta 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 ta, because that's how you then you know what I mean. That's how you play. But then if you do
Totally understand.
Riding a pony, knocking on that door, like
Stay on theme.
Right.
Bronco, not pony.
You can't. Right. So you understand. So that's like that is. It's almost like how your heart beats. Like you to know how that works and to find that pocket.
Especially jazz.
In every setup that you are, to know how to like manipulate the beat and be behind, be ahead, and what it means. What does that mean really? To like, it's almost like a little bank of transfusion of blood of history that he takes individually and puts into your body, in every one of his students. Maybe he could be tough at times, and maybe some people may not necessarily agree, but he's amazing.
Wow, that's fascinating though.
Professor Carter is amazing. So anyway, once I'm in front of this whole class with dudes and everybody's like a jazz person and I'm just this violin chick that played classical music, and everybody's a jazz person and everybody's doing pretty good job, and here I am. It was like a Lee Morgan solo or something, and then he stops me in the middle. He's like, Zara, do you eat, I don't know if he said like, do you eat corn and are you a chicken? Are you a chicken? Quack, quack, quack. Are you a chicken? I was like, no, Professor Carter, I'm not a chicken. And that's in front of a room full of guys, so it's very embarrassing, whatever. And he's like, well, then don't sound like one, huh? How about you give it a shot again? And this and that. And so it was those moments of constant embarrassing and constant like, just like, oh man, this sounds wrong. That's not how, that's not how you want to sing a solo that you transcribe. So that make you really just kind of grasp the concept of what swing, what pocket. Because there's so many times we throw some words around, but sometimes people don't know what does that
really
mean.
Means,
what is it like? Tell somebody, tell like a classical player, man, you're really not in the pocket. And they'll be like, what pocket? What are you talking about? So and there's like you said, a slang associated to. Anyway,
that's fascinating though. I would have never thought with violin that they would have used that so much, and it makes so much sense when you say it, and when I hear you doing it, it makes so much sense though. Wow, that guy. That's really cool.
Professor Carter, everybody should just kind of, I don't know of Ron Carter. He's on.
Just find out what floor he's on and
he
visit.
He retired and he moved to, I think, North or South Carolina.
I have a non-musical question for you, because this part of the whole journey, there's so many aspects to somebody who comes to another country and having to pick up things from the language, and then also like honing your craft. There's so many layers to this.
Oh yeah.
And yours are, it's really fascinating because again, I didn't, I'm sure you were amused that I focused on the bench, but I mean, in the middle of all that, to spend a week sleeping on a bench, there's so many things you have to figure out. And the one thing that fascinates me the most is 2 months of an English class is not going to totally prepare you for communication on all levels. How is it going? Like year one, what is life like outside of the classroom, or even inside of the classroom? Just talking to other people. The communication level, how is that for you that first year? I mean, it still has to be a little fish out of water.
It is definitely challenging, but Robby, I have to tell you, the friends I made that first year at NIU are still. I mean, I say still some of my best friends until today. So we're talking about, so that's 2000, let's say that's 2001 September or 2002, whatever. It's 17 years later, 16 years later, 17 years later. I'm as tight with these people that chose to, for some reason, focus not on what I was saying, but the intent.
Yeah. And
like being able to understand and see and felt me from day one. I'm still, extremely close with these people then.
Really?
There. So it's I don't know.
Wherever they put you up, were you living alone or did you have a roommate?
I had a roommate, but it was the most amazing because it's like University Plaza, because what it is like you walk in the door and there's 2 doors. So it's essentially 2 individual rooms in the same. So it's like a 2 mini apartments in the same apartment. We just share a shared bathroom and shower. But we had with a door, like 2 individual rooms.
Oh, that's cool.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really great.
And again, like just regular life, because suddenly now you're able to do some social things, right? Now you're able to go whatever it is, whether it's lunch or whether it's to a party.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but then the communication level, I'm so curious about that, like year one especially, because then I know by year 2, 3, 4, you're getting the hang of more things. And
Year one, I mean, see, I wish I had thought about figuring out to record for myself, maybe even
a journal,
even a journal or something, you know, just so that I can remember, even for me right now as we speak.
Do you remember any of the language struggles? Any weird?
Oh, every word I had to look up in a dictionary. Every word I had to go on internet and translate. You know, like write it and translate in Bulgarian, see what it means. What it is you gotta understand about language is that the majority, until you get a hang of it, everything is context. So if a sentence is constructed of 5 words and you know 3 of them, you have a pretty good guess what the other 2 words are. Now, unless it's something completely, and so then the more you hear it being used, then you kind of like, oh, that must mean that, and it must mean that.
Yeah.
If it was used in this sentence and in this sentence with these surrounding words and with this surrounding words, so it's all like you are actually listening for the context as opposed to really figuring out the individual meaning of the word.
Yeah.
Until you know what it means.
And
until
then
you know
this
what
country
it means.
has a culture where every 2 years there's like a new list of like slang phrases that are not even what the words actually mean.
This is way more advanced, and this didn't happen to be. This was never my concern, because it's like stuff you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's almost like not a hip hop culture, but it's almost like stuff that is way too advanced at that time for me to grasp.
Yeah.
So even if there were any changes every 2 years, I sure was not aware. Now I understand that there are certain things that, because people, in my opinion, get super lazy, they decide to make a new way of, which is absurd.
Yeah.
Absurd. And there's so many misusage of certain words. I would like to think of an example, but because I want to keep moving, I would not do my brain.
Yeah, no, it's true though. It's true.
You know,
people get
misuse
they like
of,
the way it sounds too, and then they start using it, and then they don't educate themselves. And you know, even the word literally isn't quite what everyone thinks it means, and everyone wants to say, and I literally, but it has different meanings to it, and it's often misused. But it's the definition of the actual definition of that word has almost changed just because of
to serve
culture.
somebody's, exactly.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Exactly right, and that to me it's troubling, and that to me is something. I am very much of a conservative thinker, and that to me is something I for example, really love British sound and British language and British expression.
Yeah.
And sometimes I like to read what the old presidents would write, love letters with their with their like wives and such. Read autobiographies that are full of just colorful language that is just makes you feel. I mean, it's such eloquent way of expressing things that it just makes you feel good, man.
Yeah.
It makes you feel good, because at the end of the day, you could survive using probably 20 words. You could survive all day long.
You would know this more than any of us.
You know, you could, but that's not the whole concept of being a human. I love monkeys. Monkeys are my favorite. I love all animals better than humans.
Oh,
I
sure.
would give
Yeah,
my
I can see
life
that.
for an animal.
But why monkeys
any day.
in particular?
But
I need
the difference
curious.
between being, you know, right, having consciousness,
Uh-huh.
right, like analog, right, back in the days, first to be able to point at something and to transfer into smaller scale
Right.
to create a map, right? So consciousness would be basically, in my opinion, like would be just so the development of analog, where you could translate it, and then also using words to explain something else. So context, right? To be able to express. Okay, let's see how do I even explain that to you. But basically,
well, there's a purity to something like monkeys. There's a purity to intent and everything. If you're talking about like just animals in general as opposed to humans, I mean,
no. What? No, Robbie, you lost me. What I'm trying to say is this. What I'm trying to say is this. If we decide, and me and Joshi, my husband, me and Joshi often have that conversation about the fact that I love language. I love developing. I love learning new words. I think that as thinking or critical thinking human, you should be able to have a I am not saying
wide vocabulary.
But I'm not saying to go to go to people that wouldn't necessarily grasp what you're saying and to pretend to be super fancy and to talk to them in a way. I'm not saying that. No. But I want you to have every single thing that you can have in your back pocket, and then choose what. So if you go in a doctor's office, I want you to be able to meet them right where they are and ask challenging questions.
Exactly.
Ask and be able to understand. And then, of course, if you're gonna go and buy, which is the reason why I'm saying, giving those examples, is because this last week especially, I've had to learn a lot about. Yeah. But anyway, I've had to learn a lot about doctor situations, and
we don't have to get into it, folks, but she had a friend who had some medical stuff, and she was helping the friend along, so that suddenly put you were in that situation where you had to talk to a doctor and,
Right,
sure.
So basically, because I was the only representative, so to speak, like a family, like the closest thing.
Yeah.
So instead of this person being forgotten on the bed, you had to fight and ask and challenge and read and learn. And when you're going to call a heart surgeon, you better get your stuff together. You don't want to be a dumb person who just like, excuse me. No, you want to ask the right questions. So what I'm saying is like, for me, constantly expanding your knowledge. I happen to love language. For some reason, I really do. I love language. But I mean,
like
I don't
7
know.
loves. That's a lot of love.
Yes, a lot of loves. How did you come them so quickly,
I
Robby?
know I'm probably wrong. If we played it back, I'm probably way off.
I love.
It might have been 5.
6.
Damn it, I was close.
I told you. Well, hey, you will be close. I mean, like.
I love. But yeah.
Oh, do it again.
That's a song. I love my calendar
calendar
girl. Ever hear that? Oh, you're singing.
No. Sing it again. I'll vocalize.
I
With you.
love my calendar girl.
Okay, and so
we are 2 professional musical people, but for that moment, we sounded like 2 cats that had been thrown against the wall very hard. Did you notice that?
So okay, Robby,
But you're right.
I will try to keep my thoughts so that I can get back to
Please
what I was saying. What I was saying. Oh man, can I even get
no,
back?
but
Wait.
Okay.
Wait, monkeys. So I love monkeys, right? But what I'm trying to say to you is that we as humans have the obligation to develop because we are conscious, because we have consciousness.
Yeah.
Right. That's the difference, right? Because we have consciousness. Now, if you didn't have consciousness, you don't have to know more than 2 words and communicate, but because we have consciousness, we should try to expand. I mean, right? That's why we have life that is given to us.
Yeah.
Right. The opportunity to kind of develop, right, and just kind of like see how far you could.
And along those lines, when we talk, it's weird because we were talking about the slang and how people abuse the language sometimes and find lazy shortcuts,
that's what I mean.
Which is annoying.
That's my
There's
point.
a flip side to that I enjoy too. Like there are certain times I don't mind when that's done. When the words are used properly, but also I love creativity. And sometimes there's another thing that happens that should be celebrated. Sometimes people just coin an interesting phrase that's creative and they play with the language.
Absolutely.
But it makes sense and it's done for creative and in a cognitive way. Then you got me. Then like, oh, okay, you twisted the language a little bit, but this was smart and this was clever.
Absolutely.
That's like, taking the colors of the rainbow, which are natural, and then making a beautiful painting, But yeah, it's all the weird shortcuts and the cheats, I feel like now we're sounding like 2 like old fogey, like, it's kids today. But it's true. It's true though.
No. We're not sounding like that because basically because I think that has everything to do with even the rest of the stuff that you choose to do. Like, so if you limit yourself in anything, then you limit yourself in everything.
Yeah.
Ooh,
that was deep. High five me for that. That was bumper sticker worthy. I like that. T-shirt.
No, but by the way, a bumper sticker I saw, my favorite one was a guy in this position and then it. So it was a guy like
he's having sex.
Yeah. And then it.
Oh,
so it was an action with an it. It was kind of funny.
That's the most interesting version of fuck it ever. This was a license plate. No, not a license plate.
A bumper sticker. Yeah.
One time where I was driving on the expressway and somebody had a license plate and it was the letters I and then the letter M and then the letter A and then Q and then T. And it's funny because I'm like looking at it slowly. I'm like, what is I M A
Cutie
T? And my wife laughed so loud. She's like, that took so long for you to figure out. And she's like, from this day, I could tell that every time you're looking at an interesting license plate, you're not saying it out loud because you sounded like an idiot that day. And she's right. I'm like, saying it in my mind first because I sound like I am a cutie. She laughed so loud. Wow.
No, but you know what? You are driving at the end of the day,
Right.
so you can't be doing 100. You know what?
Zara, sometimes my brain is so fast and other times it is so slow.
Well,
it's just me.
You were saying, how is it adjusting the first year? And then we went and talked about British language
and British monkeys.
And monkey. But the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that, yes, you could use context and 20 words of your life, but eventually it's not a bad idea to start just kind of being a little bit more active. So what I'm saying is that what was I saying, Robby?
Take another drink of coffee. Cheers me right now.
No, here I have water left. No, I have nothing left.
Oh no,
I'm the biggest drinker.
She's taking up all of her fluids.
No, wait a minute. Wait.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was this all about?
I was asking you about how tough it was to get through with limited language, at the time, in that first year. I was mainly wondering, how it was for basic communication outside of the classroom because you were explaining how
it was great. It was great because it's funny. Everybody laughs. You say random things. You express stuff that wouldn't be said the right way, but everyone is there to help you.
That takes two special ingredients. It takes you being a nice person and somebody that's likable, which is very helpful. You have a good spirit. But it also takes the other person, the receptors, to be understanding and nice people as well.
Unbelievable. And I have to be honest, Robby, I don't know that I've had experiences that are bad. I honestly don't know. I mean, again, my surroundings in school, my friends, my teachers.
It's good that you have a sense of humor too. I think that helps because I think for the most part you seem to be a happy person. I can also tell like you're a person that nobody would want to piss off. I think you could like wield a violin like a weapon if you had to.
Yeah, that G-string.
Yeah, man. I can. The G-string.
The G-string.
She's wicked with a G-string. Everything. See, when you say it like that, it sounds dirty.
Yeah, but isn't that the idea?
It's
anyway,
a dirty death.
Wake up, everybody! Wake up! Enough with the English language.
No, but I mean, you have a sense of humor, and that helps too.
I just want to say that Kendrick Lamar and Eminem, I love them so much, especially Kendrick Lamar. So I'm not talking about. No, actually Eminem as well, like so much.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about being stiff and weird as far as wanting people to do more than just shorten words and then make them make them suit their own agenda, as opposed to like, so why instead of going the extra mile and learning more, you go the shorter mile and you omit the whole dictionary? That's kind of like the current president who's like, let's change the constitution that's been in place because I'm so very lazy.
Omit the whole dictionary. You're right. It goes back. I can't remember what we were talking about in the last episode, but somehow we got, people like littering and stuff. It's laziness.
Oh,
though.
Yeah, laziness.
It's laziness. That's all that it is, man. Hold on. We have to refill her fluids. We're going to take a short eye blink. Here's your blink. That was your eye blink. We are back. Okay, an eye blink for you and a couple minutes for us to just refill coffee and stuff like that. Okay, So we're back. We are back, and here. Okay, so I want to skip ahead.
I never heard this before. No. I wonder why it sounds so familiar.
So we're in. Here's what I want to know, because at some point, now you're so busy and you have a wide variety of gigs, like stylistically. So what I want to know is, while you
I'm the stylistic.
She's stylistically all over the place.
Whoa, what did it?
People are gonna be like, what? Did she have a candy bar on the blink? She seems a little more giddy all of a sudden.
It's just your coffee is really finally working.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
It has been an amazingly heavy week in terms of busyness, not so much, and so seriously today, like, when we met, it was when you woke up, when I woke up, and then we meet and we're like, and the English language.
I like your impersonation of us.
Hello. We're so cheerful. It's amazing. And so finally we're like, okay, this is how we are now.
We're awake. We're
as opposed
ourselves.
Yeah. As opposed, it's a little funk sometimes in the morning.
That's real. What they got from us for that first part of this show was reality.
No, but I feel so good that I am not that you can see me non-hyper, which I
Yeah.
don't think you've ever seen me non-hyper.
I like that. We have layers. That's a layer because the first podcast you came out swinging. You know, I mean, I told you that it was like trying to ride a beautiful Bronco. Like,
And
just,
that was after I just done training right before that. I came straight from training.
was it boxing or something like that?
Well, you know how like it's 3 times a week, 2 times boxing, one none. One
Okay.
is just like your body weight or
you
whatever.
were pumped up. You were.
Oh,
ready.
yeah,
You're like, Robbie, what's going on, bro?
Robbie,
Check out these glutes.
give it to me, Robbie. Give it.
It's like-
And then, mwah, mwah.
He's kissing her biceps.
Yeah.
She totally trashed my place.
That's-
she didn't even walk through the door. She took it down. She's like, oh, I'll just put the door
And
over
then-
here, Robbie.
When I left, I was like, I'll be back.
I'll
and
be
you
back.
See, and you see, I'm true to my word.
And you came back.
I mean, I came a little bit more sleepy, but yeah, I'm back.
That is fine. Now, here's what I'm interested in because the gigs you do are very diverse. You
Yes.
know, here's what I did not expect because I'm doing these.
I love it because I'm like, you will finish that thought. I promise I will let you. Go ahead.
I'm doing these these gigs. She's just laughing to herself right now. I love what I'm seeing right now.
Yes, yes.
You're doing the gigs with me with like the big kind of whatever, the big 16-piece group, and then you're doing your other stuff. But then you do this like funk stuff, and then you're telling me about like cool like places where the South Side soul people perform.
I love your. Go ahead. You should be my spokesman.
I will do that. I'll just
Yeah,
go
yeah,
wherever
yeah.
you go, and I'll speak, and I'll see what
Perfect.
Zara's trying to say is.
It's the final
What-
say,
man, what
everybody.
you don't understand, Zara's trying to say. Man, you been back up. Yeah. That's all right, baby. I got this, Zara. Go sleep on that bench, and I will handle this.
Oh, Robbie.
No, here's what
Speaking
happened.
of benches,
Oh my gosh.
My one of the second places I slept was in a friend of mine
Uh-huh.
or acquaintance, but friend now we're super friends, but
Okay.
before maybe in the beginning acquaintance. Is an amazing guy, and I slept in the back of his car, and then when he would bring me like a bowl of cereal and banana in the morning, he'd be like, breakfast in bed. And then his mom's found out that I'm sleeping in the car, and she's like, absolutely not, you're coming right up here. And it was a family of it's Juan, my friend Juan, and I loved his mom dearly. And it was a family of, let's say, how many kids were in the house? Like maybe 5 kids. And then his mom will cook. I have to eat everything that she prepares. And then she she got sick, and then she requested that I'm there at the funeral and play for her. And but Juan and his mom were some of the people that really helped me. Really helped me.
Were you in college at that time? Or
Yeah,
where?
that's still at the Paul.
Oh, okay. My
Still at the
gosh,
Paul.
man.
So amazing, just amazing people that we're still friends, and that we keep in touch, and it's that thanks to them I am where I'm at today.
Well, here's another thing, though. People can go to the schooling and all that, and they can get their education. They can further their education. But there's a whole other level that not everybody can conquer, and that level is getting gigs and getting work.
Right.
So what I want to know is, okay, now we know that we've gone through that thing of language, and we've gone through the thing of schooling and all that. So when does music work start happening? Did you start getting any gigs while you were still in college? Did any gigs happen in college?
I might have played in like few orchestras or something of that nature, where
Okay.
they would post string players for orchestras or something like that. I know that the last 2 years of being there, I would carpool with a lot of the saxophone trumpet players from the school, and we'll go to the south side at a couple of places: the apartment lounge and the apartment lounge, the Velvet Lounge, and there was another place I can't recall right now, but those were the jazz jam sessions. And like we would just drive after school, maybe like about 7 p.m.
Yeah.
We'll play all the way until 12 o'clock, and then we'll drive back, and then we'll go to classes and that happened weekly, So I would start showing my face different places,
Nice.
playing and such, but no, not actual paying gigs. I remember teaching at St. Charles in a music school.
While you were still in college.
While I was still in college. Now, how I was commuting there, that's a mystery. I don't know, but somehow I was getting to St. Charles.
Well, hold on. I want to back up to the jam thing, because all of a sudden you're walking into these jazz places, and now you've been a little more schooled in jazz.
Yep.
So now you're able to just bring out your instrument and you're improvising, and then you're working with probably some pretty cool musicians that
Amazing
are hanging there.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that's invaluable, because the first time, I think I was like brought up on, primarily soul music.
Yeah.
But then the first band I was in when I was 16, they wouldn't let me sing soul music, because they're like, no, we got to do whatever's out right now. It's the 80s.
Right.
So I had to like do that kind of stuff, which was fine. But in my heart.
Do you have something against spin doctors?
No. I used to like the.
I'm messing with you.
But you know what?
I know what you mean. I know.
I was challenged by soul singing, and I wasn't challenged by 80s pop music.
I understand that. Of course.
And I didn't like the all the synthesized sound. It's so weird. Now I respect a lot more of that music. But when the 80s were out, and I was a kid of the 80s, and everyone's listening to it, I was listening to old soul music and from the 60s. I was a weird kid.
No. Yeah. No. I think. No, me too.
Yeah, none of my friends listened to what I listened to. But anyway, when I got through that, but then as I got older, all of a sudden soul music became trendy and cool, which is kind of nice, And then I started to sing it a little more, but I was in this a cappella group, and we would do these great things. It was so great. We would do like Sgt. Pepper's, and we'd sing all the horn parts and everything, but we did a lot of soul, And the singers were amazing that I worked with, and we did this one lounge called the Greenhouse. It was in like northwest Indiana, just outside of the city, outside of Chicago. And there was this guy, and his name was Guitar Red.
Oh, what a name.
Guitar Red. And he was a Chess Records session guy from back in the day. So
Incredible.
A lot of famous Chess Records.
Sure.
And he had this weird thing. He would always go to NAMM, and he would be a person who presented like new technologies. Mm-hmm. He had a little MIDI thing and sound effects on his guitar before I've ever heard anyone do it. Before all the pedals came out, he was building it himself. And his guitar had like a control panel. And
like how you're rubbing your belly.
I know.
I
like,
understand.
But what's interesting is we opened up for him. And I would watch this guy, and he was blues, but also very jazz.
Yeah.
And he would do songs that I grew up listening to, but he would add some jazz voicings to them.
That sounds amazing. Actually, I'm gonna check him out if I can find some
and
recording.
he pulled me
really
up.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, I was for the first ever solo CD I ever did. He blessed me by coming on and doing a duet with me. And
Incredible.
We wrote a song together, and he would perform with this guitar that had the control panel on it that would make some string sounds and stuff, and then he would have a little drum machine that he built into his guitar.
Incredible.
So while he's playing his guitar, his fingers would like hit another button.
Sure.
Oh, there's a drum sound. Oh, there's a tempo I want.
Sure.
Oh, here's
Sure.
And then he had a bass string on the bottom. His bottom string was a bass string. So you'd hear all these voicings and all this jazz stuff, and with his pinky, you'd hear like.
It would be really so funny if he was really bad.
No.
And he get all these things. I would love
just
to see
noise, just terrible. No,
I'd really like
you'd
to
hear
see
all
it.
these cool jazz voicings, and then all of a sudden you'd hear this boom. And I'm like, what? That's a bass. What?
Right.
And then you're looking, and he's like playing a little bass line with his pinky, while it was the most amazing. And he was an old man. But everything that he did. So when I started following this guy, I kept coming back by myself.
Sure.
I didn't drink till I was 21, so I was under 21, but they'd let me in. And
are you sure we can be friends still?
Can you believe that?
I don't know.
Even when I was 21, I would go in there, order a Coke, and I would just sit back and
just check him out.
I get
Amazing.
drunk on this dude. And then, but he would,
Yeah.
after a while, he'd constantly let me up and let me sing. And singing with him opened up these like different jazz voices. I wasn't trained in jazz, but I was trained by ear, so I could hear the different voicings, and it caused me to ad-lib and do these something about jamming with jazz people. It caused me to just do all these different things, and it was almost like a different education for me.
Absolutely.
And then he brought me to this one club, and it was a soul club that did some jazz. And I walked in, I didn't know what I was walking in. I was still a kid. I walked in with a t-shirt and jeans, and everybody there was like in suits. It was an all-black crowd.
Amazing.
Which is my favorite crowd to perform in
Amazing.
front of, because I love soul music. And when I walked in, I stopped and I froze. I'm like, oh no, like I look terrible. and oh no, everybody looks so good. And then he saw me, and before I could run out the door, he told this all African American crowd, like, oh, he's here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna bring this dude up to the mic right now, and let me tell you something. This dude right here, he has more soul in his pinky than everybody has in their whole entire bodies. And now my eyes are really big, and then the whole crowd turns around like, oh man, who is a brother? And they turn around, they see me, and they're like, oh no, he doesn't. And I'm like, no, I don't. I was so scared. And then he forces me on this stage to sing in front of this crowd. And, you know, I close my eyes, I feel it, and I'm a soul singer by nature.
That's one, right.
And I had them all, and they became my family, you know. But I guess that's a little long version of saying, oh my God, when you get to work with somebody who thinks outside of the box and has some, even just a little bit of a jazz influence, opens your mind,
it opens
man.
your mind
oh
beyond,
my God.
Absolutely.
So you're
and
doing
your
that.
ears, let alone your ears. I mean, like your ear, which obviously your ears open your mind, but like it's a whole different.
Changed everything. It changed everything. It took me places I didn't know I could go.
Exactly.
So you're feeling that often too. Then you're going to these places.
That's why I think it's so important, Robbie, to like let's hypothetically say that you are a classical player.
Sure.
But you love jazz. Well, if you decide to play jazz, it's not enough to just transcribe, read biographies, transcribe stuff, and kind of stay in front of a computer. It's the feeling. It's the experiences that it's what jazz is. It's, of course, you can in theory know everything, and you can transcribe every Bill Evans solo. I mean, I don't know why I picked Bill Evans, because it's more of a like intellectual,
sure.
whatever. But that's not really, it's like you have to have the experiences you just spoke of.
Yeah.
That's what formulates how you're gonna approach your instrument. How that like water swing is what makes somebody feel good. And I've often found out that what makes somebody feel good, it's not a lot of notes in your face. It's not being the fanciest of players. That's as the same with language. It's really good to have it in your back pocket if needed be. Mm-hmm. If you are in front of a all fusion stuffy crowd, sure, blow their mind. Play every lick under the sky, But what I found out to feel too, it's more valuable than anything else is take it easy and speak as you solo, right?
Yeah.
Because like the way you speak to somebody, hi Robby, how are you doing? What are you doing today? What is it? What is it? And so did you? And I want to, and nobody wants that, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're a little crazy, right? But then, hey Robby. Now you add the Robby part, right? Hey Robby.
Yeah.
Hey, honey bunny. So what's been happening, huh?
This is totally working for me.
And
right
it's
now.
like that, you know what I mean? It's like that. That's how you play. And maybe you get into a
that put me in a better mood, by the way, already.
Maybe you get into a deeper conversation where you can really do whatever. But the thing is, I don't know why. That's the one thing I don't understand about. Let's say if you're gonna decide that you love jazz and you're gonna play jazz, people just, it's not a sport. It's not a sport. And you don't do it for somebody to clap at you and to say, "Ooh, you're a violin player, but you play jazz. Bravo!" No. Then you're a straight up cheater, and you don't want to cheat on everything you do.
This is a very important subject. This is a very important concept in all of music. I think for singing, for playing, that I think gets lost sometimes in the shuffle. I think people need to use their head to learn the craft. That's
right.
The cognitive part of it. And
That's
then they
right.
use their head to make like proper choices. Sure. But then after that, you have to use your heart.
You have to.
And I don't want to say I look down on people, but I can't always relate to people that do this. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that do this for the attention. I used to hate, because I when people would misunderstand me, because I light up. Once the music starts and I'm on stage, I feel it. And not that I don't care about the crowd, but my whole process has always been, I'm having a blast up here. You're invited if you want to take part, but I'm giving this all I have because this is how I feel. This feels good. I love just celebrating what I've learned and using it all. And I go balls to the walls every time I'm on stage, you know? And some people
Excuse me, what does that mean?
balls to the walls.
I mean, I can visualize it, but what is the
It's
purpose
basically
of it?
like giving everything you've got, like all you've got, all, you know, I don't know why or who
I
coined
understand,
it.
but then, right, no, I understand.
I've never dissected it.
But can you dissect it so I understand? So, like, if you have your balls to the walls, that means, like, if they're on the wall, what would that... Like if you're... No, I just would
you
really
know what's
like
interesting
to
now
understand.
that we unpack it, because I think maybe I've fallen victim to hearing that for so long that I've used it, but now if we
Balls
really
to the
unpack, I don't think we want to unpack it, because if my balls were actually on the walls, first thing I would be... It would
How
be,
many walls?
It would just one wall,
One
but they
wall.
say balls to the wall. You know,
Oh,
oh man, go balls to the wall. But if my balls were on the wall,
Yes.
they would be very uncomfortable. I'd be it would restrict most of my movement, because that means...
I would assume,
And since
yeah.
my balls aren't on my back end, my face would be against the wall. So actually, balls to the
Yeah.
walls is a very uncomfortable position to be.
Wait,
and I hope no
maybe-
one ever takes that in the literal sense.
So maybe that's... Wait, listen. The face to the wall, maybe that's like... Maybe that's what it means that you push to your limit. Maybe that's what they mean.
As long as you don't push from the groin area, because then you'll squish your balls and you'll be in a lot of pain.
No, but Robbie, this
Yeah.
is serious. Listen.
Oh,
so
this is serious.
This is like... So if when you say, I give it my all, I
Yeah.
give my
Balls
to the wall.
Yeah.
That probably what you're saying is that there's no further to go.
Ooh.
Right. That
You've
your
just unpacked
face,
it, yeah.
That your face is to the wall, and then if you decide to go further, you would do some damage
To your face and your balls.
Whether it's to your vocal cords, whether it's to your, you know what I'm
Groin.
saying. So it means that you have pushed to the limit of where you can go.
We've just unpacked balls to the walls. Look at that. You're welcome,
Great.
America.
I still think it's better to use something a little more inspiring, but
Sure.
'cause
All right.
there's gotta be a way.
When I'm on stage, I go as far as I can go. Like I go so far that there's nothing left to where my face and balls are against a wall.
green button, everybody. Bravo!
But I mean, the thing is, it's such a celebration to go as far and give it everything you have. And if you give everything you have from your own heart, then it's pure. And by the way, if people care about applause, I think more people are going to react to honesty anyway, you know, at least you're sincere. But the best part about it is then you're not a slave to that applause, because then if the applause doesn't happen for me, or if I have a show that somehow doesn't go over well, I mean, I don't want to be booed, but if it's just, okay, not everybody danced or not everybody went crazy, I'm okay with that, because I had a great time. And one thing my dad always taught me, because I used to sing with him,
Yes.
he always said, don't ever put all your faith into that crowd.
Absolutely.
You don't know what they're feeling. You don't know what they're doing that day. They will never be consistent. The only consistent thing you have is the people with you on stage. So celebrate yourself on stage. Celebrate the people you're with in the moment, because he's like, I'll always be here next to you. I'm not going to let you down. You know, he's like that. Become best friends with that band at that moment. You know, even if you're not really best friends, you're best friends on that stage.
At this moment, it's an experience you guys are sharing, and if it's real, it's deep. It's deep. It's
I am
incredible.
a huge fan of emotional content, and I think it's so important. I think it's so important to take the craft and learn what you can about music, but then add your emotional content to it, because if not, it goes right back to what you were saying about the doodle-doodle-doodle.
Think about what music is. Is it something you can touch? Is it something you can like see?
Yeah.
Is it something you can no? So what is music if not what you have in here? And the closest in here, I'm pointing to my heart, and the closest way of transferring it to somebody else's heart without even knowing how this all happens. I mean, of course, you can dissect it through the brain and
Sure.
blah 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 blah. But we're talking about if music is not for that, what else is it? And that's why there's a huge difference. And you know, for some of the things I have to do, it's more of a show as opposed to you know. But that's why there's a huge difference between entertainment and music, you know, and so
And that's okay.
oh yeah it is okay, it is okay, maybe.
Well, I mean, at times.
Anyway,
yeah.
that's actually a very very long and perhaps eventually a dark subject. But
Dun, dun, dun.
right, because if you choose only one, then you would be basically like alone playing amazingly in your own house where no one's ever gonna hear you, and
Right.
you're not gonna make a living.
Right.
ever. And then you could still continue to be the greatest idealist that you could continue, which, you know, I want to be.
Yeah.
I understand why you're squinching your eyes
No,
right
no,
now.
no. I was thinking about how I approach those different levels, because what I've learned to do, and let me know if you do the same thing. You know, if something isn't as musically / emotionally appealing to me, I look at what it is. You know, maybe a cover band show or something where I'm going to sing Jesse's Girl as opposed to a Stevie Wonder song. But I look at it and I identify it. And I'm like, okay, like I'm going to do this right here, right now. And that's what this is. Oh, and I'm singing. Like I'm still singing. I'm still putting something out there.
You're absolutely right.
So I can identify what this is, and I'm going to do it. And knowing what it is going to make me enjoy it, instead of some of my peers who have sometimes, you know, I've worked with people who would come into the cover band world or whatever for a minute, and they're writers like I am, but you know, when I do a song, when I do one of my originals for my show, I have an extra spring in my step when I come back to the cover band, where some of my friends would come back from their original shows and be like, forget, man, this sucks, you know, and like, well, it's all something. It's all, this is an hors d'oeuvre. Yesterday you had steak.
That's what I mean about, what I mean about what is music. You know, you gotta figure out, like, how do you fit, and it's never gonna be the same 2 days in a row, because it just isn't. And so that's why one of the main things that I think people have to be very, at least that's, I mean, whatever, this is just my thoughts, right?
Sure.
But one of the things I like to take into consideration, it's important when you write music, when you write original music, and let's say you decide to record it, it is, to me, it's almost like it could be little, it could be, how do you call this when you have a little injection?
Oh yeah.
Lethal. It could be lethal. It could be like poisonous if you have created that stuff out of anger, out of some sort of a sick ambition, out of the stuff that you put as far as like harmonies and notes. I mean, it's almost like you're responsible for your listeners. You're responsible, not that you can control that, but it's almost like, because of what music is and because of how immediate to the brain it goes and to the inner parts, like there's no filters, it just goes directly, so there's nothing filtering it. So basically your message, your intent, your emotion, it's gonna transfer directly. So that's why I think it's super responsibility for people that compose to be all love. It has to be all love. It has to be all joy. It has to be all love. Even if it's sad, it has to be all love.
Based.
Love. What you do, the sounds you do, because when you transfer it to somebody else, you're basically responsible about that person's brain, heart, as they experience it. You know what I'm saying?
You reminded me of when Paul McCartney was asked one time, like, what was his favorite thing about being in the Beatles, and he said that for the most part, their message was love. Like, for the most part, that's what they really believed in when they wrote, and you know, and they wrote about everything. But he was very proud of that. And as I look back, like, yeah, that is true. Like, some of their biggest number, you know, they were never like tear the place apart, you know.
Right.
They didn't have that vibe. In fact, they were given this one chance when it was still kind of a new technology to broadcast something all around the world. I don't know if you knew this story, but they were asked, okay, well, we want, you know, you guys to be a part of this worldwide broadcast.
Okay.
So say whatever you want to say.
Okay.
And they wrote, all you need is love.
Love.
And that was their choice. Like, this is what we're going to sing to the world if you're giving us this platform.
That is amazing.
And it is amazing, you know. So no, I think you're dead on. And I think people are not aren't always as dumb as, you know, some people almost insult the crowds, like, well, let me just put on a flourishing show. You know, if you're honest up there and emotionally honest, they're going to even feel that more. They're going to walk away feeling something. They're not even going to know what it is, but they're going to feel it, you know.
Absolutely.
It's very important. Yeah, it's a thing. And I know too many people, especially singers, unfortunately, that are so about the attention and the compliments and the applause, and it really sometimes stops them from being as great as they can possibly be. And what I hate about it the most is it robs them of the gift that this being able to sing so wonderfully can give them, because you can walk away happy even if everyone's not giving you a standing ovation, you know, if you truly enjoy it from within, you know.
Yeah, I also want to clarify, when I talk about love, I don't necessarily mean not standing up against, like, because you said, for example, like,
I was wondering about that.
In the name of Rage Against the Machine, and so on and so forth. Yeah, all about that. Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm all about revolution and all about
what's going on, man.
Justice and what's going on.
Marvin
so I'm not
Gaye,
talking about being in my own like little bubble and being you love each other even when your neighbors are getting shot. Love each other. That's all. Just turn your other.
Even a protest protest song can be based on someone's love for the human race.
What I'm trying to say is that whatever you compose, whatever you do it from from a very just, and very I don't know. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like you cannot have maliciousness. You cannot have darkness. You cannot have like depression.
Sure.
You cannot have what else? Something that robs people from hope in your sound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it has to be empowering. Regardless, whether it's I'm going to empower you to fight, to continue to, not me, I mean, clearly I'm not, we don't have, the music, the sounds you get, like I'm going to empower you to fight, I'm going to tell you that I'll be there with you or whatever, like that.
In the end, they have to express what they feel, and that's something too.
Like, then there is that, do whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever they feel.
And then don't even listen to this podcast. But the thing is, that's just your opinion, my opinion. That's all we can do. The extent.
And it's what even works for us and what we enjoy.
Right, which is completely subjective.
To start finishing the last chapter of the Zara tale. Now that we've followed you from the beginning of your feet landing here in the country, to I want to take it to now. You're in college. You're doing the thing. You're experiencing the jazz clubs now. And now you're getting some work. You'll see some postings, and you'll take some calls for orchestras and stuff.
Right.
So then, at one point, how did we get here where you are now? Because now you're doing a lot of different gigs. Your gigs are very diverse. When I see you post some on Facebook or something. What happened? Did you? A lot of it come. Okay, let's start here. The jazz clubs.
Yes.
Did any work spawn from that scene at all?
No.
Okay.
Not necessarily. No.
Okay.
It's more just like me, just even getting over getting over the fear of going and playing music that I love, but it's not necessarily in my blood yet, and just becoming making it part of my DNA. That's a challenge. That's something you forever, ever work on, right?
Yeah.
Forever. So couple of people responsible for what's happening nowadays. Number one, well, let's just see. Well, no. Okay, so after school.
Yeah.
So first of all, in school there was this super hot bass player who just happened to be there, and who happened to just take a notice of me, and I happened to take a notice of him. And now 16 and a half years later,
this is your husband.
That's my husband.
Okay.
So I met my husband in NIU. Now, how we got married is another super amazing story. But anyway, that's probably for a whole another time. But that's two and a half years later. In 2005 we got married, and we met in 2002. 2002 we met, in 2005 we got married at December.
Now tell everyone again the name of your husband.
Joshua Ramos.
Yeah.
But anyway, so with Josh, when he finished school and when I finished school, we came to Chicago together. And we've already lived, when we were at NIU, we already lived the last year and a half or two perhaps together.
Sure.
Anyway, and then we just came to Chicago. Now, initially when I moved to Chicago, I had no work. So I would be I would be a server, babysitter, walking dogs, the Häagen-Dazs was initially. So that was about it, like server, babysitter, and walking dogs, this and that. So one of the very first times I got recommended for playing at the wedding scene and the corporate events, I met. I don't know how I got the call, but I got on this gig, and it was really interesting story because I'm there and I'm meeting this unbelievable woman that I had no idea who she was, and I never really we're talking about now that's already 10 years ago now.
This is a wedding gig you were on?
It's a wedding gig.
Okay.
That I randomly get the call for. Maybe every other known violinist wasn't available. Maybe it was the busiest, I don't know. And so I get hey, do you want to go? Do you want to try it? Okay, fine. And so I go, and the other violin player who was there was this light, like just a I don't know if there's somebody closest to the sun that I can in the form of a human was this person.
Okay.
Was there. It was absolutely amazing. So it's like everything as far as like dancing and the music and the laughter. And so I go to her and I say, hey, do you know I am married to the best bass player in the world? And she's like, huh, that's so interesting because I'm married to the best player in the world. And I'm like, no, really. And she's like, who is you? And I was like, who is you? And so I was like, what's your name? And she was like, my name is Jennifer Law. So my exchange with a person that I didn't even know ever who she was and who she is happened to be this most, again, I just want to say, thanks to Jennifer Law, meeting her, let's say 10 years ago, right now, it's pretty much thanks to her that I have all the rest of the opportunities that I have for work. Not only her band, but everybody else that she contracts for, she puts me on. From there, of course, if you do good enough job, if you show up on time, if you play your parts, if you're professional, if this and that, then of course other people take interest, and then from there it grows. But if we talk about the root, the very root of things, that'll be Jen Law.
And folks, Jen Lowe, she runs, tell everyone the name of Jen Lowe's band.
It's Cover Girls, a violin show.
And it's
just
really,
for a moment, I forgot.
It's really cool because what it is it's you know, these talented and beautiful women, and they're playing, and they'll play even like modern stuff. You know, sometimes they can even do a stage show. There's choreography and stuff. It's really cool. And Jen Lowe is a wonderful person and a very smart person, because you guys
super incredible. She's incredible violin player. She's incredible.
Yeah, when you
human
guys
being.
when you guys
like
hear about me jumping around to Rome and China and all that stuff, that's with a bigger version of the band Final Say that I work with, and that has the string players, and Jen Lowe brings those string players in, and that's how I've been able to encounter people like Zara. But what's really cool is she is so intelligent. I finally, for my first time, I got to really sit down with her and have lunch with her in China, and she is very smart and kind and sweet and super. But that's what it is. All of a sudden, you link up with somebody like that, and then you're thrust into the scene, into maybe the busiest scene for certain players that you can find.
Exactly right.
And then you meet all the players, because everybody, you know, if you work with like the successful units of bands and things like that in the corporate and wedding world, a lot of them, especially in Chicago, I think it's a collection of some of the best players in the city too, because we all need to work. We all need to work, and not everything is going to be, you know, a big Sony Records thing or a big commercial. You know, the wedding corporate world works really well. In fact, people, it's very funny. You might not be aware of this, but people like Bon Jovi and a lot of your modern singers and older singers that are famous do corporate work. And I heard the lead singer of Train, hey, so sister, talking, and he was talking about his life, and he's like, yeah, I don't really just go to Hawaii, unless I'm on a corporate gig. I'm like, what?
Yeah, of
and
course.
He's like, yeah, you know, he was we weren't talking personally. I heard him on a podcast talking about how he does corporate gigs. You know, I did one show where the person was saying something about Bon Jovi doing a wedding. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's out there. But what's great is that when you do these things, folks, you end up working. You have to not only be talented and good at the craft, but you also have to be professional. And that's what I like about the people we meet. We meet these people that I can do an original show, and I'm like, I'm going to take him and her and him and her, because they're so pro.
You know, let me tell you, it's so amazing that it was Jennifer Law that set the first standard for me, the first idea of what it is. Let me tell you, because then after you've experienced her, it is not possible to allow to be treated lesser, to be told a certain way, to be like stressed. A lot of these wedding people are very, very stressed out. I don't know why. Like a lot of the corporate band leaders are just, it's tough. They're almost like they almost turn into like non-humans at some point. They just become very rude, and they are all about pleasing the client, and kind of forget that they're, you know. And then it's really interesting, because once you encounter somebody like Jen, you're like, no, you don't have to be a weirdo. You don't have to be all about the client but not the people. You don't have no. And you
I give her
good, amazing, fun, super duper. And then once like I'm sorry to like not let you finish.
Go ahead.
But once you like encounter this, it's like it's almost like if you were in a marriage that somebody beats you and you just don't know that that's not okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
if it's like if you're in a marriage with the kindest person, let's say, and then for some reason you go and you witness somebody else being beaten, you're like, oh my God, this is not right. But if you don't know, do you know what I'm saying?
She
Like,
deserves
it's
a lot of
weird.
credit too, because it is not easy to do what she does. It's not just about being a nice person, because she pays such close attention to
she's
the
amazing.
clients and what they want. And you and I were just kind of speaking on this. I'm the band leader for Final Say, the corporate
Yeah.
band. And it's true, during the week sometimes you're talking to people, and sometimes you're talking to a nice person. Sometimes you're working for a mean person, an impatient person.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm on the job leading my band for this big corporate thing or a wedding, and sometimes I'm almost being mistreated. You know, it's just
Yeah,
a
I understand. I
tough
understand.
client.
Yep.
And what's really hard, it's hard to do at first, and you got to make it your habit. At some point, I leave. Maybe that just happens to be a rough client, right? And then
Yeah.
I tell myself, okay, today's going to be rough.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all right, because
Yeah.
tomorrow might be better. But then what I've noticed a lot of band leaders do is then when they walk away from a potentially difficult client, and yeah, it gets you upset, sure. But then you walk into the room where it's just your band. A lot of band leaders take it with them, and then they walk. Then they're grumpy to their band and they're mean to their band. Where Jen Lowe specifically walks into the room, and maybe sometimes you could see it on her face. Like that's what my band tells me. Like, I still walk in, and I walk in smiling and happy, and they don't realize that I just got chewed out by an event planner, or belittled or whatever, or just had to like run, whatever no, we'll take care, calm down, But then I walk in and my band won't know it. Once in a while they could say, you're still friendly, but we could see on your face is a little like you had a rough one, huh?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I won't bring it to them, and that's what Jen does. And it's sad that a lot of band leaders, they carry it with them and they transfer it. And all I think of that is, man, it's too bad you can't find a different job. Like, maybe this isn't for you, Now, to some people's credit, I also know some people that get out of the band leader thing because, like, I can't do it.
Sure.
I can't,
Yeah.
But what she does is commendable, but it's also very hard. It's not easy. It's taking the harder road, because it's much easier to be frustrated and just stay frustrated. It's much harder to not take it with you, and I give her a lot of credit, and because that's my goal. You've been on random gigs that I've led. Maybe not. I can't remember.
I also can't remember, Robbie. But I mean, it's especially this week. I had not a brag, but this week I had 9 gigs in 6 days. How do you do 9 gigs? And one of them with Yo-Yo Ma. One of them.
Whoa!
Right
come on,
now.
high five me there.
Right now we're gonna. I mean, when is this
How was
air?
Yo-Yo Ma to work
When
with?
is this gonna air?
The first, I'm not sure. Probably the first Tuesday of the month is usually.
Is it
when I
after
come out.
Sunday?
Yes.
So I can say this because this Sunday, speaking of Jennifer Lowe, we're playing with the group Chicago, with the band Chicago at Old State Arena. I mean, it's unbelievable.
That's
So like,
amazing.
it's been a crazy week.
Saturday.
Yay.
Woo,
In the park. Yeah.
awesome.
It's amazing, but the thing is that it's taken, like you said, it's taken 9 years for the snowball to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and
Yeah.
bigger and bigger. And I feel as though you have to kind of stay more or less in the same place. Like because every time I thought about, I'm moving to New York, I'm moving to that, it's like you can't fully take advantage of, because right now I'm making a really good living in Chicago, being being a freelance musician, meaning I'm not associated with one orchestra and staying there. One of the most important things I want to say, because since this is a podcast that you're asking about what my influences and such, so okay, Jennifer Lowe has really, really helped me on many different levels. Now, the two other opportunities that it is in value, I cannot even, like, there's no word to describe what I've learned and how much I've learned. I am the violinist for St. Sabina Church with Michael Flager on 78th and Racine.
Okay.
And that's kind of like listening to Martin Luther King every Sunday after Sunday. It's the most revolutionary, pointy, uncomfortable, alive, real, extraordinary place you can be, place that is making changes in people's lives, in its community, in making a bunch of politicians and NRA feel uncomfortable, and they are and fighting for what's right and keeping your clock corrected. Like, in other words, there's no religion, there's only faith in the place I go. There's no rituals, there's only worship, there is only truth, there's only
cool.
justice. And so there I've met some amazing musicians, in addition to Michael Flager's preaching, and one of my dearest friends right now, mentor, is Michael Drayton, and thanks to him I have been able to understand and learn a lot of things. And he was one of the very first people.
What does he play?
He's the MD, the musical director for the church, and he's a keyboard player. He's an extraordinary human being, extraordinary. But one of the main things he taught me was that I can never be somebody else because of my DNA. Simply on the simple fact that there can never be a replica, whether it's a thought process, whether it's you're trying to emulate somebody's playing, whether you're trying to be comfortable for exact structure that you are made and who you are and your voice and what you to not only be comfortable, to love it so much to where you expand on it. That's what I learned from him, to learn to value my individual voice. That was Michael Drayton. So that's all him. And the other, maybe my most favorite musical experience that I have up to date, that's Orbert Davis and the Chicago Jazz Philharmonic. Orbert Davis is, if people don't know who Orbert Davis is, I don't know, they're basically missing out on life. No,
nice.
Really.
Yeah.
So Orbert Davis is, I mean, the greatest human being, the kindest, the greatest, most knowledgeable, most unbelievable, again, leader of an orchestra, educator, having so many school programs for the kids. The way he described, like, he took a painting and he connected rhythm to the wind in that painting, and he connected, like, it's like learning music through reading. It's unbelievable. Just check out Orbert Davis and CJP, Chicago Jazz Philharmonic, and what Orbert Davis does is incredible. And that pretty much can summarize my whole concept of
what I like about what you're doing is like, people can experience like great people and greatness, but sometimes you're just walking away with the musical end of it, when so many people so many people are where they are because of mentally what they've chosen to do, spiritually what they've chosen to do, emotionally what they've chosen to do. That's and not many people realize, like, it's a combination of all that makes you successful in this business. And not only does it make you successful, it makes you happy.
Robbie, that's it.
And the fact that you're able to read that and experience that, there are many other players that will be around the exact same people that you are, and they're not going to walk away with that because they don't look within.
I understand.
So people, if you're out there, it's inside and outside. Hone your craft, but use the emotion. Get your heart involved, because it's going to make you more well-rounded. And that whole applause thing, that is one-dimensional. That's not enough. If you think that's enough for you, you're missing out on a whole other meal plan. Okay, you're just having the potatoes. Have everything, sample everything. It's about all of it. And so, wait a minute. How did these things come to you? This little dog is looking at me. How did these things come to you, by the way?
She started clapping, and then
she started clapping like
she just
my little
right
chihuahua. When you're getting the work, all the work, was that? How were you finding it? Like, the Jen Lo, she found you and called you?
Well, that gig that we met, you see, it's about who you are. Essentially, it's about who you are. When you are just yourself, when you're expressive, when you're however you want to be.
These are the lessons I want the players trying to break in and get busy.
That's what I mean. Yeah. It's not about. It's really never about being complimentary of someone. It's never about just like looking at somebody as an idol or something. Like, for example, I had a chance to work with Spike Lee. Right. I mean, I literally am on a talking basis with Spike Lee. I mean, I can call him. I have his number. The thing is, the greater people they are in their craft, the more awesome humans are. And the last thing Spike would want, or any of that people would want, is for you to go and be like, you're the greatest, you're amazing. But if you go and you're just like, yo, what's up, man? How do you like your coffee? Yeah, cool. Yeah, what time is it? or whatever. Oh, have you heard of this and that? The more you're just a human to this person who is so used to everybody just looking at him for pictures, almost like treating him almost like a almost like
a show at a zoo or something.
Like a show at a zoo. You know
wait a minute. You can't just do this fast and not tell. What? How do you know Spike Lee?
Oh, he was so at San Sabina. He did a movie called Chirac, and at San Sabina, everything was filmed at San Sabina. Everything we composed the San Sabina band. We composed a bunch of the soundtrack for him. Specifically, Mr. Drayton, specifically Michael Drayton was in a very close. We recorded a bunch of it. We were in the movie, and then after that, he of course keeps in touch with the church and keeps and loves, and so he flies frequently from New York to come to services. And then once I was with my bag and somebody taps me in the shoulder and I turned because I'm like, my mentality is like, I'm setting up, leave me alone, like that. But I turn and it's Spike and he's like, what's up? What? Are you about to punch me in the face? I'm like, oh, what's up, Mr. Lee? How you doing? And he's like, come here, give me a,
oh my God.
The more normal people are, the more you just want to. So what I'm trying to say is just be yourself. Be yourself. Because otherwise what happens is like you actually miss the moment. It's weird. It's funny because I'm yet to discover, okay, you know how you heard my story and how I hustled to get to all these schools and to study with those people. Funny enough, when it comes to the gigs, I haven't had to go and talk to restaurant owners and promote myself or do this or did I. First of all, I hate the internet and I hate computers. Straight up, that's out of the way. I do not like any of that stuff. So for me, that's a super challenge. Okay, number one. Number two. I've not had to go to restaurants and such because again, it just kind of started all kind of. I've always worked like I'm a pit bull. Once I can never be without a work. I've not had a day of my life that either I was not in the beginning when I was serving or babysitting or this and that. Like I would never have a day without work. Never. Because what am I going to do? Not just stay and what am I going to do?
Right.
So my thing is that this kind of naturally happened organically. However, if I wasn't, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because now you're only doing the gigs that come your way. Now, for example, my gigs with my original music, I'm not doing as many because guess what? I have to make materials for that. I have to then start learning. This is in the future. Learning how to send my stuff internationally to jazz fests and to whatever. Like I don't know how to do this stuff.
The beautiful thing about your placement is that you have a lot of friends that do that, and then you can pull from different experiences.
See, I don't even know how to. That's the thing. I don't even know how to tap into that source.
Yeah.
I never think of asking somebody first before I think of, okay, I have to figure it out. Never ever have I think, I know this person that knows that knows this. Never, which is a great way of thinking. I never think that way. I think of like, okay, I start creating stuff on my own, and maybe I would try something and fail 99 times, and then maybe one time I would not fail.
Well, forward progress is everything, and the fact that everything that you do is still movement.
Yes.
I did a whole TED talk about that, about how as long as we're moving forward,
yes.
it's all forward progress.
Exactly.
This is amazing because you do deserve what you have, and you can't say like, I took someone else's spot way back when. It's all about the tenacity, and it's all about the determination, and it's all about seeing something and going for it and seeing, well, okay, that person, he's there. I'm going to go put myself in front of him and see what the universe does. And you did that, and that's what makes everything work.
And one of my greatest rewards, can I say something I'm proud of a little bit?
Yeah.
Is the one thing I'm really proud of is, remember my mom who went to clean houses so she can support me? Well, guess what? My mom has not had to do a single thing that she does not want to do for the last 13 years because her daughter supports her fully. Her daughter supports her fully, and her daughter would take care of her anything she wants. And guess what? I have taken her to Niagara Falls. I've taken her to Mexico. I've taken her to many places in Europe. Many places in Europe. I've taken her. Las Vegas, Los Angeles.
Oh my
I've taken her to see who she really likes, Lionel Richie. I've taken her to see Lionel Richie, and it was fun because Josh played with him that one gig. So I've taken her to see Lionel Richie a lot. I've taken her to see Andrea Bocelli. She likes Andrea Bocelli. Anyway, and you know what I'm saying? This is the one thing I'm like, and my mom will never ever, and so my grandparents as well, and my mom never ever have to worry about anything ever, and my mom would never ever have to worry about anything, and she could do whatever she wants.
Out of all the stuff we talked about, that is the best. That is, you just gave us the ending to the story in a way, because knowing how things were at the very beginning before you came here, that is a beautiful way to close the chapter. I mean, you can't ask for more than that.
No, you can't. You can't, and that to me is really like.
Oh man.
I don't know. I'm happy that I've been able to. I'm really, really happy that I've been able to do this.
Yeah.
For so long.
Good for you, man.
For so long.
That is amazing. Oh, well, there's no better way to close it out, because I mean, you end with mom. My gosh.
And one of the greatest times was, remember Robert Davis that I just told you in Chicago? Well, last year, guess what? Last year I went to a festival. I was taken by Robert Davis to a festival. Guess where? In Bulgaria.
You got to go back home.
I got to go home on for a gig, for an amazing musical experience. Amazing music. My favorite thus far in the world.
Quit coming up with better endings to the story.
Amazing musical experience from jazz, incredible jazz musicians from United States of America taken me to Bulgaria. And my mom being in the audience, and of course getting up and screaming and all of this stuff, you know.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
It's just been amazing, Robbie. It's an amazing ride.
What a journey, though. You know, the way it all came back. That's amazing. Wow, man, this has been very nice.
Thank you, Robbie.
Yeah, I'm glad.
For me as well.
Yeah, I hope so.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And especially after waking up. But
this is reality. You know what? It's almost like for this episode, the audience got to wake up with us as we rolled out of bed in a way. Like,
it's true.
Okay, and then we're gonna, and then they talked to us after our first cup of coffee.
It's the opposite, literally.
You are
your favorite word. Used in an improper way.
Anyway. You are a warrior, my friend. You're a warrior, you know.
You.
And you're strong, you're a force, and you're sweet and you're kind at the same time. I love the fact that, like, if you had to, I feel like you would break somebody's nose, but at the same time, if you had to, you would patch somebody's nose up.
Yes.
And I like that.
Yes, it will. And if I patch somebody's nose up, then it would get infection and stuff.
And they would probably die shortly.
They would die shortly. So really, if you could find somebody else to patch. No, that's actually not true.
But then after that, you could play a lovely song over them. Like,
no, they're...
My wife used to love singing the violin, and I don't know why. It was her favorite thing. I'm like, why are you doing this?
Your dog is walking away very disturbed right now, based on our last noises.
I think the sounds, yes. The dog's like, I'm not amused anymore. I'm not amused anymore. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending the afternoon with me and finishing the story. Now we have your complete story forever and ever. Your story is out there in the interweb.
Thank you so much, Robbie. Thank you for this opportunity, because, again, like you said, how often do we get to tell someone who actually is interested in listening to what you got? I think now it's time for you to just press stop. Because my brain,
she's like, another thing.
My brain went like, how the heart is like, pim, 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 pim. But still my mouth kept moving.
Yeah, I like that.
So it's like, and then
Robbie,
I am just thankful.
Robbie, if I could say one more thing, I just
yeah, everyone, go watch Nebraska and tell me why do you like that.
Oh, this is Zara. And wait, it's the website one more time.
ZaraViolin.com.
And that's Zara. Amazing spirit, amazing person, good for all of the senses. That is Zara. That is a treat. You're very welcome, and I'm very thankful. Thanks for being here. I love you.
I'm thankful too. I love you too, Robbie.
Bye-bye, everybody. Go out. Have a great month. Have a great week. Have a great day. Go out and find your smile. Lovely.
Awesome, man.
Isn't she lovely?
Isn't she wonderful?
Ooh, you got a little classical vibe.
Why? Because I love clowning. Because I think the worst thing that a person can do is put big vibrato on songs.
I may be long-winded, but hey, to say. Maybe lick your lips when you're hungry. Maybe drop your head when you're sorry. Maybe shake a bit when you're worried. That's just